Hey, everybody, this is your boy, the dope ass dude, and I'm so excited to be here on tonight for the season finale of season 8. So it's kind of bittersweet because I've enjoyed being here with you guys each and every Monday for the past 2 months. So it's been an extraordinary journey this season and had some great guests. So I definitely want to send a shout out to all the guests that was on the podcast this season and for all the nuggets that they have imparted on our lives and for the transparency that they've shared about their journey. So I'm really excited to be here with you guys on tonight, and I'm really excited about our guest. So just a couple preliminary things. You already know, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, if you don't mind going ahead subscribing to the YouTube channel, and while you're there, click on notification so that you can be notified each and every time a new podcast is uploaded to the site. And then while you're there, go ahead and click on like so that this can be shared with others just like yourself. And now you already know when we are streaming, you can always watch the podcast each and every Monday live on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. Again, that's Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. And if you can't catch us on Mondays, you can always catch the podcast on the go at Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And then if you're not following me on TikTok and Instagram, you can go ahead and follow me on both of those platforms at the Dope Ass Dude Podcast. And you can also follow me on Threads, the Dope Ass Dude Podcast. So on all three platforms, you can follow me at the Dope Ass Dude Podcast. And we'll go ahead and get Shana Lee's information out of the way, and we'll flash this on the screen a little bit later as well. But you can follow Shana Lee on Threads and Instagram. On Threads and Instagram, she is Breathe and Exhale 360. Again, that's Breathe and Exhale 360. And then on TikTok, she is Breathe _ Exhale 360. So that's Breathe _ Exhale 360. And then after tonight, you will find out while I'm giving you this information, you can always contact Shana Lee on her website. And that's www.breatheandexhale360.com. So a little bit about Shana Lee and how I met Shana Lee. Shana Lee and I, we used to attend the same church, Christian Chapel Temple of Faith, CCTOF. We attended that church years ago. I was the musician there, and Shana Lee was in the singles ministry, and a mutual friend of ours who introduced us, and our friendship just blossomed from there. And since meeting Shana Lee, I have watched Shana Lee evolve greatly. You know, when I first met her, she wasn't married yet, but now she's married and she is doing things that is like mind blowing, you know, with her organization, Breathe and Exhale. But just watching her evolve, because Shana Lee used to be one of the shyest people ever. You know, she really didn't talk a lot, but now I see her and she's doing all of these things, and she's hosting lives almost every morning or every other day. She's doing a live on Instagram, and I watched some of her content, and it's just amazing to see her light shine bright. And just a funny thing about Shana Lee is one of those people, she never have a problem finding a job. She can always find a job, like always find a job. And it's ironic that she's here on the show tonight. But I remember one of our fondest memories. Shana Lee was getting ready to go for a job, and she drove all the way out to my house, and we did a mock interview for one of her jobs. And I think she got the job, actually. I think she got the job. But we did a mock interview, and then we actually worked at the same company before. But by the time she got there, I had already left and transitioned to another role at another company. But she worked there. And like I said, over the years, we have remained in contact. And now the beauty of our relationship is we're both intentional about staying in contact. So we at least meet up 3 or 4 times, or maybe 2 times a year, just to make sure that we are staying connected with each other. And then one final funny thing, Shana Lee and I, we met up maybe about 2 months ago for dinner. And when we met up, we're sitting at the table and we're having dinner. And then it was these 2 couples, they walk in. And when they walked in, like they spoke to Shana Lee and everything. So when she walked up, I said, Shana Lee, when they leave, they're gonna say you and Josh, y'all busted up and you're having an affair. So it was like so funny because like people just didn't know. And when the couples came back by, they kind of like laughed at because I told them about it, but they kind of laughed about it, but they probably did say, me and her was having an affair. But Shana Lee is my girl. I love her. And I'm gonna go ahead and bring her on out because I want her to do some talking. What
Hey, John. You were so silly, but hello. I'm so
what's
sad to
going
see you.
I'm glad to have you here. Like Shana Lee, you have like grown so much since we first met.
Yeah.
You've like grown so much. Like,
Yeah.
so tell us a little bit about you and what's been going on with you.
Oh wow. So that's such a wide range that I can go with that question. But um, I would say that, a couple things, just over the years as you talk about my growth, the just over the years of really pouring into my word, and really it's truly because of my husband, to be quite honest. He actually like lit that spark. I always give him credit when it comes to like my spiritual walk, when it comes to even just my prayer life. Because before, with me and him, I never prayed out loud. I prayed to myself, and just kept it at that. And then when we started dating, we were long distance initially. So we would always end with praying at night. And I remember one night he said, why don't you pray? Cause he would usually end, closes in prayer. And so I'm like, what you mean? Like you doing such a great job. And so, but that was again, I always say like one thing about God is always going to put you in a safe environment to grow. So with that, I started just praying. It was just me and him praying, in our relationship, in our marriage, relationship then leading into marriage. And then now eventually, here it is like years later, God just ordered my steps, and, I'm over the prayer team at my church. So, things such as that. And just, again, taking time to read my word, that's part of my growth. And then at the same time, if not necessarily taking the spiritual out of it, but being intentional and realizing that one, my voice matters. That's something I had to learn, and that, I have something to add to the conversation. And then that comes with life too. And then realizing too, I was a people pleaser. And so oftentimes I didn't say anything because I didn't want to rock the boat. And now is more about being intentional when I do need to speak up, because am I not speaking up because I have a fear of, don't want to rock the boat with the person, or is this just a moment that I really don't need to speak up? Like it's not necessary. And so all of those things contributed to the fact of like my growth, and yeah, and then life is a good lesson too. So yeah.
Yeah, because like when we used to hang out all the time, like you were, and I'm gonna use this word for lack of words, you were more timid. Like you didn't want to be in charge of anything. You just wanted to stay in the background. You just wanted to come and go. But so now to see you like leading your prayer group at church, that's a lot of growth. So what did you just make a decision that, hey, I'm coming out of that shell?
No, 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 no. That's actually how Breathe and Exhale 360 even came about. So back in 2021, I went to, that was, we was coming out of the pandemic, but everybody was still doing the pandemic very differently. So usually I celebrate my birthday with, my friends at some point. And so that particular year, I was like, everybody's doing COVID differently. So let me just go do solo, just do something. And so I decided to go on a trip to Fredericksburg. And when I went on the trip to Fredericksburg, I was coming back I was coming back like early enough for Josh and I to do dinner, but I said, okay, let's go. Let me go to Fredericksburg. So I went to Fredericksburg all by myself. It was a personal solo trip, and just to spend time with God, but at the same time, just to see the city. It's known for wine country, so I like wine. So I was like, this right up my alley and everything. So, so I took the trip. And so while I was there, I love sunrises and I love sunsets. And in the process of that, for the sunrise, I thought about like, let me go and see the sunrise at this beautiful park that's near Fredericksburg. So I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to go. Not really thinking it through, to be quite honest, because it's the sunrise. So it's still very dark, and it's no street lights. So got on the road early and I looked up, when the sunrise, was expected. So, to make sure, and I looked up the distance to make sure, I'll get there on time. And on my way there, it was so scary. I wanted to turn back so many times, but something kept telling me just to go, just continue going. So I had to use my GPS, like actually look at my GPS because it was like going in and out because of the satellites and everything. It was no street light, so I had to like just be cautious. And so as I was setting all to do it, I was like, okay, maybe I need to turn back. But again, something told me to keep going. So I was staying I was staying in Johnson City, which was right outside of Fredericksburg. And so once I got to Fredericksburg, it was some lights and I was like, okay, good. But I still wasn't at the national park. So I kept going and while I was going, it was like a mountain. So I had to like do a lot of curves. And it was just the most scariest thing ever. Ever I've ever done. And so I finally made it to the park and I was just, first of all, I was thanking God. And then I would experience the sunrise as well as, seeing the moon set. And in that whole process, in that journey, one thing that I learned in that is that to trust God, that it's going to be scary. It was like I had a whole moment and I recorded myself. And one day maybe I'll release the recording, but I was just recorded myself just having a moment of realizing like, God, like, let me just, and it was more so of him saying, I want you to do it scared. I want you to trust me. It's going to be scary. This whole road ride was scared, but you made it, but you did it and everything. And so that kind of just lit a fire in me, like under me, and was like, instead of me being afraid, because fear really did cripple me. A lot of times I wouldn't do things because I'm like, oh, what will people think? Or what will people say? And and then I'm an overthinker. So that added to a whole thing. But I was just like, at some point I had to realize, and in that journey of getting to the sunrise, it was like one of those car rides that just literally changed my life, because by getting there, it made me realize that I could either continue to live in fear, and fear would have made me go back to the hotel, or I could just keep going and just dare to trust God and like see exactly what he has for me. Because I personally feel like with fear, it will cripple you from seeing what God's glory is for your life. And so we only got one life. And so I want to see all what he has for me. I want everything that the heavens have for me on earth. When we say the Lord's Prayer, it's like what's in heaven come, to come on earth. And it's like, I want to see that. And so that was really what was the changing point for me. It was like, nah, I need to trust him more than I trust myself, and more than and then at the same time, like, that lit a fire under me. But as I continue to grow, I realized that it's really doing God a disservice if you don't fulfill all your gifts that he has in you. And so that's truly like one of my guiding principles, or one of my I don't know if you want to call it guiding principles, but one of those things that just continues to guide me. Like, if I stop now, if I don't move now, then it's like, when I don't want to get to heaven and God was like, I had all this for you, but because of fear, because of this, you didn't do anything. And so I learned to say, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it scared, and just really trust him in the process.
Yeah, and I love how you acknowledge that you were allowing fear to cripple you because it is so many people. I mean, we're at December the 30th, and there's so many people have gone through the entire year 2024 wanting to do something, but they were afraid of failure. They were afraid of what people would think or what people would say. They were afraid of like, well, is this really God? Guiding me, or is this me speaking to myself? And they never ever step out and just go for it. And I'm glad that
Mhm.
you didn't allow fear to cripple you anymore.
Yeah, 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 exactly, exactly, exactly. And that's true. And when I come across people and they tell me their dream, and I'm always asking like, what's stopping you? What's stopping you? Like, because we don't know unless we try. And even in the trying, and even if it doesn't work out the way that you want it to work out, that doesn't mean I even start looking at failure different. That means like you just trying it to see if it would even work the way that you envision it. He'll always like direct you and make your path. But sometimes we think like success is we step out and it's going to simply blow up, when God just wants us to step out and see, okay, I can trust you with stepping out. And like that may not work out, but like that wasn't supposed to work out. It's like he wanted you to learn something in that lesson. So now it's like, okay, now I'm going to have you over here, and now I want you to try this. And it's not more so like looking at failure as something that you didn't succeed in, because it could be that you just simply learned to step out, or you learn, or it was something in that process that you learned how to run a business, or you learn how to do a podcast, whatever the case may be. But this, again, he will always order your steps. And if you really if you trust him, like you say you trust him, and not trusting him with just parts of your life, but all of your life, then he's going to direct your path to where you need to go. So
Yeah. And I think it was Tom Cruise, Ethan Hawke, or whatever in Mission Impossible. He said, failure to a terrorist is practice for success. And if you try
mhm.
it and it doesn't go the way that you want to go, you go back, you learn whatever caused it not to go the way that you wanted to go. You learn from that, you build upon it, and then you try again. And if it don't work that second time, you just try again. You just take whatever and just keep going until it does work. And I think also another thing people fail to realize is that when you try something and it doesn't work out the first time, that's a pivot moment. Maybe you need to go a different direction. Maybe
Direction,
you keep the same
exactly.
plan, but let me do something different. It don't mean stop. It just means
Yes.
do something different. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, 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 exactly. I know,
Wow.
because I even think, like, even with Breathe and Exhale, like I didn't broadcast it, but I did subscription boxes at first, right? And so I was sending out boxes and everything, and I still want to get back to that, and I still would do boxes, like the if someone orders like a junior box, I'll do like a one-off box and everything. But I also pivoted to when it comes to retreats. And that's where I really feel like, man, like I see God just doing so much when it comes to the retreats and just pouring into women, because I love pouring into people. So I feel like, man, this is really hands on, and my opportunity to hands on pour into ladies, allow them, and it's actually utilizing a gift that I love. I love planning events. I love traveling. So it's like it has so many of the components of the things that I love. And so when it comes to the retreat aspect of it, I'm loving it because I'm getting an opportunity to really just have that one-on-one pouring into a group of ladies for the weekend.
Wow. So when you look at yourself, Shannon Lee, like, are you amazed with your own self? Like, like planning these retreats, it shows the creativity that you've like blossomed into. So, like, are you amazed with the growth your own self? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Like I would even just say just 2024. It's so funny. I was having a conversation the other day with a friend, and I was sharing with her one of my ideas, and she was like, I don't ever want to hear you say you're not a creative person, because for you to think through this, and everything. And I always looked at creativity in a sense of like, I can't, like the drawing, like the things that for me, I'm like, oh, I don't draw, I don't sing, I don't I can't write poetry, like things such as that. But realizing that creativity comes in different forms, right? And so when I think about just looking back over in 2024 and seeing what I've accomplished, the retreat was like a major thing for me because, it was like, I always like when I first envisioned Breathe and Exhale 360, I did say, okay, I want to do retreats. And I was like, I want to do it year 3. So it was always part of the plan. And so when I was thinking about doing it, but then again, you're like, I don't know, will people come? You have that fear of like, will people sign up? And everything such as that. And then one of my friends called me and she was like, I think you should do a retreat. And it was like more like a confirmation. And so I always tell people like when especially when you're operating in God's presence and just operating in your gifts that God's given you, He's going to send you confirmations along the way of like things that you're thinking about. And so when she told me that, I was like, okay, let me take that as confirmation to like just step out and just like plan it. And so I did my research and everything, and I put it out there. I put it out February of this year, and to see that I was able to get 5 ladies or 6 ladies together to go on a retreat, to entrust me to do a retreat with me from Friday to Sunday, and then for them to turn around and say, nah, Shelly, we need more time. This isn't this like we need just more time. It's not, you can't just do Friday to Sunday. So they're the reason why I'm doing like the Thursday to the Sunday to give more time. So we can, really enjoy ourselves and really just have a moment of being poured into. So to answer your question, yes, I'm amazed. First of all, I'm just amazed at my growth spiritually, and then I'm just amazed at my growth this year when it comes to my business and just being consistent. That was like my thing. I was like, I gotta learn how to be consistent and not necessarily look at the numbers and none of that. It's like it's all about the quality of it and giving people what, and showing up as my authentic self. I was listening to a podcast and it was like a business podcast, and she was like, if you show up as your authentic self, your tribe will come. You don't ever have to sell anything. They will learn to just trust you because you're showing up as yourself. And so for me, I said, well, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show up at, what my friends know. And not to say I wasn't showing up like that before, but just like you say, like I'm doing Monday motivations and I'm showing up. Like you get the extra me, you get the silly me, you get the serious me, you get all of it and everything. And usually, unless you're with me on a one-on-one where you get all those sides. But I take those conversations like I'm just having a conversation one-on-one with someone. And so just growing professionally, and then also just growing spiritually, and in essence, all of that combined is growing as the woman that God created me to be.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of people, Shana Lee, when we have stuff or we do things, we question whether or not people are going to come or whether people are going to receive it. But sometimes I think, and my buddy Eric, he always reminds me of this, is that, if 1,000 people showed up to your event, can you actually do that? Can you handle 1,000 people? Can you give excellence? Can you do it with the spirit, not drop the ball? And I think that's where a lot of people go. They'll have a lot of people there, but what you're offering is garbage. And then people leave there and then they talk about your stuff. And the next time you have something, you won't have anybody there. Have the 5 people or the 10 people there. Do with the spirit of excellence. And those 10 people, they're going to go and tell 2 people. And the next time you have 30 people there. And it'll continue to grow there. Let it grow organically, man.
Yes. I was just having a conversation about just growing organically, social media, like in like social media platforms, but at the same time, just even with the my retreats and everything, and just growing organically, because I think that's important. I think about like, one thing, again, I gotta go back to the Bible. One thing I always learned, one pattern that I've seen in the Bible is that before God puts you out there for like the 1,000 people, He's gonna prepare you privately. He's going to prepare you to, because I think about Elijah, right? It's like before you go and you talk to the masses, you need to master certain things and certain qualities. So when you get to the masters, you are able to you're able to handle it. Because how often do we hear about people that they burn out because, or they not necessarily burn out, but they can't handle the 1,000 people because they weren't prepared for it. So I take the humble beginnings. I take the, if I get one person to sign up, I'm happy. I get one person to listen. I'm happy because at the end of the day, I know this is my sacred ground and this is my safe ground. And then one day God is, and I do believe that God one day will have, I will be speaking in front of thousands, and whatever his heart, whatever his desires are for me, I'm here for it. But in this time, like you said, showing up in excellence every single time. So.
Every single time, every single time. And I mean, that's a word by itself, because I think, again, that's what people need to hear. Stop worrying about the crowd. Just show up and do your thing and do it in excellence, and people will come. The
Right.
word will get out. It will spread. You won't have to do anything about it. And yeah, just show up with excellence. So Shana Lee, so of course I checked you out and everything, which I didn't have to like check you out too deep because I know you and I follow you already. But I did notice your tagline for Breathe and Exhale. It says, "We create a space for women to not feel guilty for loving themselves, or without feeling guilty of loving themselves." So why do you think women feel guilty for loving themselves? Like, where does that guilt come from?
Here we go.
Here we go.
No, because
This is my one question. I told you, I said, before we started, y'all, so I always tell people before we start, I say, look, I'm not going to talk to you because I want the conversation to be organic. And I say, I have one question for you, and then we're going to go from there. So this is my one question, Shana Lee. This is my one question.
So because we wear so many different hats, right? I know so many women, just by talking to them, they feel like they need to, take care of everyone, right? Regardless if you have children or not. We have this instinct. This is something that God created us. We have this instinct to make sure everything is good. So we're making sure our family is good, or if we're involved in our church, we're serving, we're doing all we can in our church. If we're involved in our community, we're doing all we can do in our community. So oftentimes when I talk to women, number one, they don't know how to rest. They like, what you mean? Like, I got things to, I got a checklist, right? Or they find that I don't have time to rest. I'll rest when and this is universal. It's not even just women. Like, I'll rest when I die, right? And so we just keep going. And we feel like, is it time for us to it's time to cut that out and make time for ourselves and say, okay, I want to love on me. I want to take time. And when I say take time to love on them without feeling the guilt, is that, yes, you can go and make time for yourself. And it doesn't have to be a spa. Like, don't get me wrong. I love the massages, the facials, and everything. But sometimes it's just the little things of going to walk. Sometimes it's the little things of going to walk with your girlfriend. Sometimes just to pour back into your cup, because we're oftentimes continuing to pour out of our cup to help people. We got girlfriends calling us for advice, right? Or we got our kids asking us for X, Y, and Z. Or we have our husbands, and men have y'all do a great job with y'all ain't gonna do it, y'all ain't gonna do it. Like if you, it's this meme that goes around on the internet that, when a man say they going to bed, they going to bed. When a woman say they're going to bed, she's doing all this other stuff before she has to bed. And so we tend to, as women, make sure that everything is under control before we can really rest. And so my thing is, not necessarily like, I'm not saying neglect anything like your family or anything like that, but make sure you are carving out some time for yourself. You are doing something that's going to refill your cup, because once you refill your cup, then you can show up as your best self, as the mother, the wife, the sister, the daughter, the community leader, the church leader that that God created you to be. So
Yeah. So
that's what.
So let me ask you this here. So, because in the world today, we hear people always talk about love languages. We hear people talk about that all the time, and they're always talking about it when it comes to someone else doing something for us. How do we find our self-love language? Like, because people go out and they'll get a manicure, but they still feel empty. They feel
Mhm.
still feel depleted and don't feel good about themselves. So, how do we find, or how do you coach women to find their own personal self-love language? What does it for them? How do you coach them to that?
Yeah, so with that, you want to make sure, first of all, when it comes to like love languages, the love language that if you are a person that love quality time, me, like my love language is quality time, right? And affirmations, right? So for me, reading something that is telling me or reminding me that I am um blank, I am, I am confident, I am, that helps me. Quality time, going out and just either going to the gym, doing something that I allow myself to spend time with me. If your love language is acts of service, you're probably going to do some type of community service. So I always tell people to find what gives you the joy, right? And that not necessarily that, again, it doesn't have to be, because I think sometimes we overthink what makes us happy, and or what we can do. And I think sometimes we need to find like the simple things, right? Even if it's a manicure, and if you go and you still not happy, then you got to think about, well, what is causing you not to be happy for getting a manicure? Was it that's if that's not necessarily your love language, or do you have something else going on internally? And if you have something else going on internally, then let's talk about that, right? Because the mask could just be, oh, I'm going to get a manicure to make myself feel good, right? Or it could be, hey, I'm going to take myself out to eat because that makes me feel good. If that makes you feel good, that makes you feel good. But if you come from whatever that it is, and you still feel bad, then what I suggest is that you start doing some internal work, and start talk, and we can start having that conversation of, hey, let's talk about it. Let's talk about where is this coming from? Where's this feeling coming from? Because it's something deeper. If you're doing things that would normally make you feel good and it's not making you feel good, it's something deeper. So we need to examine that and talk through that.
Okay. So let me ask you this here. So, because I know a lot of times when, and I just use me for example, I don't always feel comfortable in group settings talking about maybe what's going on in life with me. So, how do you create that space for women to feel safe? They're in a room with maybe women they don't know, and maybe that's the
Mhm.
comfort. I don't know you, so you can't judge me. But
Mhm.
how do you create that space for women to feel as though I can come here, get naked in front of these women, completely transparent, and I don't be judged? How do you create that space?
So when it comes to the retreat, it's two parts to this answer. One, I'm a certified life coach. So if you want to have one-on-one conversations with me, we can always have a conversation about setting up a consultation so we can talk through, and then I could be your life coach, right? So that's one part. But when we're referring to the retreats, one thing, I'm very much intentional, right? And so I thought about, I love going to conferences. I love going to workshops, all of that. And I will go by myself, right? I don't necessarily need people to go with me, right? Because I feel like if it's an investment for myself, I'll do that. So with that being said, when it came to my retreat, I thought about that. I said, well, what if a person is coming by themselves, right? I know I can walk into a room and meet someone and start feeling comfortable with that, but that's not everybody. So what I do prior to the retreat, we have Zoom calls, right? And I have the ladies introduce themselves. I have an icebreaker with this group, because it's going to be bigger and because it's going to be some of the ladies not going to know each other. I am planning on a different series of Zoom calls so we can start getting comfortable with one another. So that's the first part, right? So that's even before you get to the retreat. So once you get to the retreat, you can be like, okay, I do know you. We were on the Zoom call together. I know your story, blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm not asking anybody to reveal something that they don't feel comfortable revealing, that they don't feel comfortable. I want you to show up as your authentic self, what you feel comfortable with, right? And so that's before the retreat, we're doing Zoom calls. I'm being intentional with what we're talking about on the Zoom calls to kind of just get people, and it's lighthearted. I'm not asking like no deep questions. What is your childhood? You know, what's your worst childhood memory? I'm not asking questions like that, but just light questions that would get people to know one another. Then once we get to the retreat, what I have planned, so for the Thursday night, it's going to be like a pajama jam. It's going to be fun, think, waiting to exhale type of vibe. I'm working with my decorator to just create like a fun atmosphere, right? And so to me, oftentimes you start feeling comfortable with people, at least if it's like just a fun atmosphere. We're going to play games. And that's what we did even at the retreat on Friday. We played games. And again, it just broke down any barriers of, okay, maybe again, I'm not asking you to be best friends with a person, but just again, breaking down barriers that we start enjoying the weekend together. And then on Friday, what I have planned is a lot of group activities that's going to be fun. And again, we're going to go horseback riding. The retreat is going to be held in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, and we're going to do horseback riding. And then I have some other activities that's going to do that. Again, it's just going to be some fun in nature as a group. And I remember with Fredericksburg, from the game we played, we had a whole inside mean joke from that night, because those are things that gets created. Like when you are just having fun with one another, you are starting to create memories, right? And so just having that fun atmosphere. And so that's going to be the Friday. And then the Saturday, we are going to do some more intentional work, but it's going to be individual. It's going to be group based, but then individually, right? And so it's going to be some questions and some conversations. And I have a therapist coming in the afternoon. So at the same time, by the time you hit from Thursday to the Saturday, and then the Zoom calls, the Thursday, the Friday, and by the time she arrives, we should have it should just have like organic conversations, right? And then just going back to Fredericksburg retreat, and then at the farewell dinner, I'm asking questions again, lighthearted questions. Some of it's a little bit more like serious or whatever, but for the most part, it's lighthearted. It's like, what's one of your family traditions? Like very lighthearted conversations and everything. So then again, the women will feel like they're being seen, they're being heard, and I'm a firm believer, as a life coach and everything, that if there's something going on, and if I need to stop and we need to like, let's take time to care about this sister, then we're going to do that. Right. Like for me, and one thing I told the ladies in Fredericksburg, and it's going to be the same with Broken Bow, we have an agenda, but at the same time, we don't have an agenda, right? It's certain things that, yes, we are going to do, but at the same time, allowing that space of we can just do. So for example, I had journal prompts for us to do in Fredericksburg, but some of the ladies, they wanted just to talk and get to know each other better. I was okay with that, because again, it's allowing people to show up who they are and what they feel comfortable, sharing and everything such as that. And then Sunday we're gonna pray and we're gonna head on back home. So yeah.
Love that. I love that. Love that you said allow people to show up. Yeah, because I think that's kind of like what people are wanting, to just be able to show up and be me. No hats, no labels, none of that kind of stuff. I just want to come. I just want to breathe. I want to exhale and release and just yeah. So let's go to the couple of comments out here. Sophie, she said, yes, your voice matters. And that came from when you said earlier you found that your voice matters. So I think that's amazing. And then we had something else, some others that said something. So we have, most women have a natural spirit of taking care of others while putting themselves last. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have another one. We have the captain complex. We
Yeah.
try to save others first before we
Yeah.
save ourselves. Yeah. You
Yes,
want to
yes,
touch on
yes.
that?
And yeah, because this morning on my Monday motivation, I said I gave 5 things I need us to leave in 2024 and not bring into 2025. And one of them was we have to stop sacrificing yourself. Like, just like the airplanes tell us when we go on a flight, it tells us to put on our oxygen first, right? But as women, we do tend to want to put on the oxygen on everybody, on somebody else. And so when I talked about this morning about not sacrificing yourself, I'm not saying not to help people, but you can't do it at the detriment for yourself. You can't sacrifice your time, you can't sacrifice your energy, your money, your family. You can't sacrifice those things, because what ends up happening, and what I shared earlier, was that anytime you start sacrificing yourself for a relationship, it's not going to work out. It's just not, because at some point you're going to feel that person is not reciprocated. So now you start feeling resentful. Now it start having some type of conflict, right? And then what ends up happening too is that when that person is like, okay, I'm done, now you stuck saying, but I sacrificed this for you, I took care of this for you, I took care of this for you. And now you're sitting here like, but it didn't matter, because now this person, because for whatever reason, the relationship is now going south. Right. And so we have to always remember to make sure that we are not, again, not saying you can't help others, but we got to learn as women to, and not, because I personally have learned not to sacrifice myself. So some women don't do it, but if you are the type of person that you're always giving and giving and giving, but then you don't ever realize, like, wait a minute, is this giving being healthy? Am I really am I really receiving that in return from this relationship? If you can't honestly say that, then you need to pause and say, okay, I need to reevaluate, and I don't need to show up for that person, because you also have to think, will that person show up for you, right? Because as human natures, we're selfish. We're just selfish people. We don't like to admit it, but that's the truth. So at the end of the day, you have to realize and know, if I don't, if I give this to this person, you got to be able to give it and not think nothing about it and not worry about it. But if you're able to, if you're giving it, and it keeps coming back, and it's haunting you because that person didn't reciprocate it, then you need to reevaluate and
Yeah.
reevaluate yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people want to believe in that 80-20 rule. No, that ain't going to work for me. 80-20 rule, no, that ain't
Yeah.
going to work. And 50-50 ain't going to work either. We both going to come in 100.
Well, 100,
100.
exactly.
Yeah, 100. 100 divided by, you bring 100, I
Exactly.
bring 100. That's 200 divided by 2. We still in 100.
Exactly.
So we're
Exactly.
not coming in here. Yeah,
Exactly,
we
exactly,
ain't doing all
exactly.
of that.
And that even goes for jobs. I see people that would give their all to a job, and then the job has some type of, financial issues or whatever, and they're ready to lay you off, right? Companies aren't as loyal as, they once were. It's long are the days of, I started this job, I worked this job until I retired, right? So we have to start, like, even when it comes to your careers, right, that you're not sacrificing your family time, you're not sacrificing, you use that PTO, and just making sure that you don't just give it all to that company, because if that company ever decides to let you go, there, you again, you sitting there saying, but I gave you this, I missed Christmas, or I missed Thanksgiving, or whatever the case may be. And before you know it, they're like, okay, thank you, but and you still have to go. So it says, in 2025, that's what I really want people to realize. Like, it don't have to be a relationship, romantic, friendship wise, or even a job. Like, we got to start thinking, am I sacrificing myself in the process?
Okay. So, Shanley, we have 28 hours before the new year happens. 28 hours before the new year comes about. So we have, like, so what would you say to someone that right now in this moment, they are feeling overwhelmed? What is something that they can start, not to get it over with by the beginning of the year. But what is a process they can start in the next 28 hours that they can repeat to like start releasing some of the stuff that they are carrying? And yeah, so what is something that people can start doing right now to start releasing?
Well, one, I want to tell you, I'm having a worthy reset. It's a 4 week free challenge. You can sign up for it. It starts January 5th. And every week,
Talk about a
every
shameless
week,
plug.
listen. Okay, I'm just letting you know. But every week we will be discussing like your mind, the body, the soul, and then finances, right? So that's one thing. But the second thing I would say is start just being self-aware of what's going on. So I always tell people to like write it down. If you're not a journal person, journaling looks different for people, right? Some people journal every day. Right. And so sometimes when people say, well, I can't journal because I don't write down every day, I always say, find what works for you. Right. In certain things, we got to find what works for us. It could be, I just have to do a dump when something big happens. Right. Or I just have to do a dump every 3 days, right? Whatever that is, whatever works for your schedule, or maybe journaling at night is probably works best for you, right? Versus in the morning, right? Again, what works for your routine, right? You can even do voice recordings, but I say that to say, start getting it out of what is your like why are you feeling overwhelmed, right? And it could, even if it's just surface level things like, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed because I got a lot going on at work. Um, you know, Family is, in disarray, whatever the case may be. I'm feeling overwhelmed. So get that out. Get your feelings out. I'm a firm believer in feel what you need to feel, right? So you want to get your feelings out. Then from there, after you get your feelings out and everything, then what I want you to do within this next 28 hours, then I want you to start sitting down and either reach out to me and let's have a conversation, honestly, because with that, I like do write it out. And then what I want you to do is think about why you're overwhelmed in each step, right? Because that's what I want to walk us through. Like, why? Okay, you're feeling overwhelmed, but okay, let's talk about it. If it's your job, okay, is this a busy time because you're working on a project? Or is it because they done laid off people and you're short staffed? What is it, right? And if it is your job, okay, how can we now work through for you not to be overwhelmed? Because the goal is not to be overwhelmed, right? So we got to think through, like, what does that look like? Right. And it doesn't mean that, okay, is this time for me to at least have a thought about looking for another job? Or is this a time of, okay, maybe I need to have a conversation with my boss, right? Sometimes it's not about quitting. Sometimes it's about also communication, right? And communicating with your boss about, hey, this is all what's on my plate. What's the game plan here, right? I can't continue. And I think oftentimes, depending on your career and how you navigate that, sometimes we feel like we can't communicate that to our boss. If you got a lot going on at home, but your boss don't know about it, I had one of the best advice I received from a mentor of mine, but at the time she was my manager. And she told me, she's like, Shanley, I don't see you as an employee number. I see you as a person. So if something is going on personally, I need you to tell me and communicate that to me, because that's the only way I'm going to know that. Right. And so she always encouraged me, if something is going on, let me know, so we're not just caught off guard, because then what ends up happening, you showing up to work is your whole self, and well, not really your whole self, but you showing up and they don't know what's going on, and then all of a sudden you have a meltdown and you have a breakdown at work, and they just like, whoa, or you ready to go off on folks, and it's like, whoa, what done happened, right? And so I think it's important. So ever since then, I communicate. Listen, you don't know that I'm a whole human with my with my managers. I don't shy away from telling them them like, hey, I got this going on. Last month in November, my husband was in the hospital. I text my manager like, listen, my husband is in the hospital. I'm gonna bring my laptop. I'm gonna, and I let them know this is what I need right now. That because to me, if I'm a great employee all year and I need this time for my personal life,
Shouldn't be
I'm
no
going to
problem.
tell you that you need to understand that. And if you can't understand that, that might not be the company that aligns with what I need. So yeah, so that's what I'll tell the person is to write out. So just to go back to your original question, I'm sorry, but to write out why they feel overwhelmed, what's going on, and then let's start talking about a game plan on working through that, right? And sometimes we can think again, we're sometimes we can be guilty of overthinking, right? So sometimes we're thinking so far in advance and we're getting anxious about something that hasn't even happened yet, that haven't even occurred yet. So making sure that we are just in the mind frame of it all.
Yeah, I love that. And I love, and I agree with you. I think the first thing we have to do is acknowledge something is
Yeah,
wrong. Something
yeah,
is off. And we get so busy in our daily lives and we get into such a routine. We wake up, we get dressed, we go to work, we do everything that we really never really assess that something is off. And I've been guilty of that many times. How I always know something is off with me is I can't keep my car clean or I have
mhm,
clothes on my bed or something like that. That's not my normal thing. And when I see that happen, and even though I'm feeling good, I know something is
mhm,
off because that's
mhm.
not what I do. So you have to acknowledge that something is off. And it doesn't mean that your life sucks. It doesn't mean that you're crazy. It doesn't mean it just may mean, hey, I may need to take a moment just to breathe or exhale or talk with a life coach. Or we're at January the 1st, people. Your EAP just kicked up. Get with a
Yes,
therapist on your job.
yes,
It's free. Get with that. I'm an
yes,
advocate for EAP. So do
yes,
whatever it does, whatever it takes for you to get into a better space because we want to thrive in 25. We
right,
want to
right.
thrive in 25, like
But
for real. So
yeah,
the next 28 hours, you might want to
yeah,
figure out like what is going on with me
yeah,
so that you can go into the new year fixing it. And by this
yeah.
time next year, you'll be like
It's
proud
a
of your
different
life.
story. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm glad that you brought up EAP because that is true. A lot of people don't think about EAP, but yes, that is a great way of getting free therapy sessions, right? And going through it, like I've used EAP, right? And so I think that's important too. If you know that, you know what, I do need to go and see a therapist, because that was actually that was number 5 on my list this morning, is we have to stop playing the victim, or if we have different things going on inside of us, it's important to go and talk to someone, right? And talk to a professional. I think mental health, sometimes we shy away from it, but going into 2025, we need to start thinking of mental health very much differently, right? And being okay with going to see a therapist. So with that, checking out your EAP, and getting the necessary, how, some companies do 5, some companies do 10, whatever. And some companies, they're really investing in mental health because they see it's such an important need. So that's important too, is like your company probably increase the amount of visits that you can see with the therapist. And then going through and doing the research to find the right therapist that aligns with you.
Yeah. So let's get some more, look at a few more comments before we get out of here. Karen said earlier, we are birth to nurture. So she said that. And then Healing
Mhm.
on the Mat says, take everything to God. He gives direction on how to set boundaries. Yeah, we talked about that. And I always got the post when somebody say that part because I don't know what they talking about, but something you said, they like that part. And
I
then
love it.
Leslie said, you're right
I
about
always
it.
say that, so I get it. I always say that, like in comments. I'm always like that part. So yeah,
That
right.
part. And Gail said, yes, I write it down every day for years. Wow, I love that.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then Healing on the Mat came back and said, regarding the job, if you don't work for a company with management like that, uh,
Backdrop.
exercise your options. Yes, I love
Yeah.
that. And
Yes,
Yolanda said 100% agree. I just did a presentation with our team on burnout, saying the same thing. So
yes,
hey, Shannon Lee,
yes.
you hitting home here tonight. That's
Awesome.
what's up. So Shannon Lee, we're at the end of our hour. So what else? I mean, like, what do you have coming up? We know about the January the 5th, but go ahead and go into that. Like, tell us what you got coming up.
Yeah, so okay, so we have the worthy reset. Like I said, the January 5th, the free 4-week challenge for January. And then we have the worthy retreat. Not to get it confused, I probably should have named it differently, but the worthy retreat.
What's the first
And
one
that's
name?
gonna be, huh?
What was the
Which
name of the first one?
worthy reset.
Okay. Okay. Worthy reset and
Yes,
worthy
and then
retreat.
worthy
Okay.
riches. Yeah, yes. And so and I say, it is like, you can do the worthy reset to kind of get a feel of what the worthy retreat is going to be about. But the Worthy Retreat is going to be in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, October 16th through the 19th. We do have payment plans right now. I'm offering 10% off for the end of the year treat. And I just encourage people to follow me because you never know what 2025 may bring. And if I may do another discount because my birthday is in January. So you just never know what may come. And then I will be speaking in Fort Worth. So if you are in the Fort Worth area, I will be speaking at the Fort Worth conference. Is the New Year, New You conference that is being put on by the Chamber of Commerce. And that will be January 18th. And you can go to their website to register for the conference. I'll be a panel, I'll be a speaker as well as a panel speaker, for the day. So I'm excited about that. And then, like I said, the Worthy retreat, again, you can go to my website and check it out and everything. And if you check out, on my social medias, I also have content to kind of show you what we did in Fredericksburg. We went to a winery. We have a farewell dinner that's going to be a signature thing where we get catered and just dress up and just feel pretty and lovely and all the great things. And then we also did a community service project. We did 10 care packages for the local domestic violence shelter there in Fredericksburg. So it was a great time and everything like that. And then again, we're gonna do some amazing things in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. So I'm really excited about that. And again, I have payment plan options available with the retreat that you can always check out and everything. So yeah, that's what I got going on.
Wow, wow, Stanley, that is a lot. And like I said, it is so amazing to see how you have evolved into who you are today. And Shannon Lee, you should write Toastmasters and send them a check. Y'all, when I first met Shannon Lee, I'm telling you, Shannon Lee did not talk. She took a couple of Toastmasters. I remember when I came to hear your first Toastmaster speak.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Yes, she
yes. I
was
went
so
second place.
nervous.
Yeah.
Huh?
I think I went second place. I can't remember.
I
I
think
can't remember.
so. I think so.
Yeah.
So, but you need to send Toastmasters a check because they really work.
Yes, yes. So if you struggle with public speaking, I can vouch for Toastmasters. It is a great organization to get a used to
Well,
public speaking.
Shannon Lee, this has been amazing. And Josh, I know you're probably watching. We are glad you are better. We tried to get Shannon Lee. Shannon Lee was scheduled to be on earlier in the season. And like she said, Josh got sick and I was determined that we were going to have her on this season. And Shannon Lee, thank you for closing us out. And everyone that is watching this podcast, 2025, I believe is going to be one of the best years of your life. And I just ask you, position yourself to be in the places that God is, trying to take you to, just follow his lead, be open and make that one of your resolutions this year to be open to just flow and go with it. Whatever happens, to just go with the vibe and just see how the year changes your life, because I believe 2025 is going to be amazing. But guys, this is the last episode until February the 3rd. We'll be back February the 3rd. with Dr. Harley. He's going to be here discussing his book. So I'm really excited about season 9. It is going to be fire. The whole season, we're talking about leveling up. So, hey, we about to kick it up in 2025. So thank you guys for being here. And until next time, peace.
Bye.